Friends and friends of friends gave advice based upon their own experiences. I reached out to Charcheret, and they got me in touch with a counselor who was able to go over with me what my options and risks were. And thankfully, my husband is a physician, and he was there the whole time supporting me through the process.
I want to say that something that is very important to me was the love and support that I got from different people in the community. Strangers would show up at my door with food and gifts and presents, and that really helped with my emotional well-being. And also, so my husband wouldn't have to worry about what we were going to eat for supper, and he would just be able to be there to support me. So that was something that was very touching for me, to know that there were just strangers. So if you know somebody that's going through that, that's really what I could recommend, is making like a nice meal for them and lending support to their family members.
I feel lucky that I chanced upon the fact that I was a BRCA carrier as a healthy person and was able to make the right decision for me and my family. I had time to decide what my risks are and what I felt comfortable doing.
One of the things that was very difficult for me at 33 years old is that I was trying to have a baby. And the first thing that I had said to my doctor was, I need to be a mother. What do you mean I have cancer? What do you mean I need chemotherapy? What do you mean I have to be on tamoxifen and Zoladex for a large part of my life? So I'd like to say 16 months ago, I gave birth to my beautiful baby girl, who I always say that she's my miracle daughter, because when I was first diagnosed, that was something that was very scary for me, that I didn't know if I was going to be a mother. So if you hear in the background of my video some goo goo and gaga, that's because that is her. So I think that throughout my journey with breast cancer, when I was going through chemo, I remained very, very positive the whole time. And I just, every day, one step forward, one step forward. I wanted to be able to go into chemo, sit in the chair, think positive. I think it's very important, your mindset and your mind frame, to be very positive. And I just went with the flow. I did what the doctors recommended for me, and I tried to have a positive outlook that this is very temporary, like cancer invaded me, my body temporary, and that I know that I would be okay. And again, like I said, with my daughter, when I thought that I was never going to be a mother, I said to the doctor, like, the most important thing for me is to be a mother. And his answer to me was, your children need a healthy mother. And so now, 5 years later, when I think back to that, he was right. My children needed a healthy mother. And I keep that in my mind, that I am healthy now to take care of my daughter, thank God. And that was very important towards me and for my mind frame, is to always keep positive.
I feel good about the fact that I proactively took charge of my health, and I make sure to keep up with my regular monitoring so that if anything turns up, I can take care of it.
Hi, my name is Joy, and I am a breast cancer survivor. At just 2 weeks past my 35th birthday, I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable one day. Thought there was a problem with my bra. I came home, took off my bra, and inspected it, and it was fine. I then checked my breast and found a lump. I made a doctor's appointment very quickly. A mammogram, ultrasound, and biopsy later, I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer. I was put into 16 chemotherapies, and during the course of my treatment, we found out that I was a carrier of the BRCA1 gene mutation. Therefore, I underwent a double mastectomy, several reconstructive surgeries, and a hysterectomy. Being diagnosed was crushing, of course. I had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. I have a friend of mine that was diagnosed about a year before me, so when I called her to tell her that I was diagnosed, she gave me the simplest yet the best advice, and her advice was just to breathe. Our medical system has come so far, and we have such fantastic doctors. She told me just to breathe, to trust my medical team, and they will guide me. And so for anybody who is newly diagnosed, I give you the same advice. Just breathe. I know you feel like you're drowning, but one step at a time, you will get through it. You will get through your first chemotherapy. You will get through your 5th chemotherapy. There will be bumps along the road. I had chemos that were delayed because my blood counts were a little bit off, but in the end I got through it, and I am 6 years cancer-free. The biggest help that we received when I had cancer was that friends of ours put together a meal train. So it was online, and people cooked meals. They signed up for a day, they cooked meals and dropped it off at my front door. People I didn't even know signed up because all they knew was that I was a young mom with 2 kids, and they wanted to help, and it was such a help. My husband had the kids to care for. I was in weekly treatments. I was very sick. So to have these meals delivered was fantastic. Since being diagnosed with cancer, I have very much made it my mission to spread the word that it could happen to anybody and to know you're normal. Once a month on my social media, I give a reminder to check your body. I'll say check your breasts, your testicles, your moles, your mouth. Note any abnormality. Make the doctor's appointments that you have been putting off, because early detection saves lives. I know it's scary. I know some of us feel that once we do one doctor's appointment and they find something, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. But knowledge is power. Had I not found out that I was a carrier of the BRCA1 gene mutation, my parents could have gotten sick, my sibling, God forbid my children in the future. So me having this knowledge and my family now having this knowledge of the BRCA gene mutation will hopefully prevent future cancer diagnosis in my family. Thank you so much for having me. I wish you a fabulous day, a fabulous night. Take care of yourselves. Make the doctor's appointments that you have been putting off, and you will be okay. Just breathe.
Hello, my name is David Bartel, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about my breast cancer experience. I probably will be one of the very few male faces at a forum like this, and that's because the reality is breast cancer in men is relatively rare, but it does happen. My experience goes back to 2002. I was in my mid-30s. I was living life, enjoying life. I had a great job, traveling extensively. And after one of my business trips, I came home and I was doing my laundry. And I noticed that on my white t-shirts, I had some stains, and the location of the stains were consistent across the t-shirts. And I held up my t-shirt against my chest, and it seemed like those stains correlated with my breast and specifically my nipple area. And so I was a bit concerned about that. It seemed like I had discharge from my nipple. And so I decided to go and see a doctor. I actually went to a walk-in clinic, and I'm very fortunate that I ended up meeting with a great doctor at the clinic. And she wasn't concerned at all, but in the abundance of caution, she wanted me to go for a mammogram, which for a fairly lean male can be pretty challenging. I had 3 nurses pushing me up against the 2 glass plates to do that mammogram. The results came back inconclusive. And again, to be extra cautious, she wanted me to go for a follow-up test. So I went for an ultrasound. That test also came back as inconclusive. And once again, to be as cautious as possible, she wanted me to meet with a breast cancer surgeon at Foothills, which I did. And he wasn't concerned either. And he said the incidence of breast cancer in men is relatively rare, but it does happen, particularly in older men in their 70s or 80s or 90s, but they typically don't die from breast cancer. But he did a biopsy, and much to my surprise, a few weeks later, he called me. It wasn't his nurse that called me. He called me directly to say that we need to have a conversation and I need to come into the office, which I did. And in the end, it turned out that I had a form of cancer, DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. And it's an early form of cancer, and fortunately very treatable, but in the, again, abundance of caution, the recommended course of action was a mastectomy to remove my breast. And Obviously not an easy decision, but particularly given that I was a male and there's lots of uncertainty around cancer in breast cancer in younger men, we made the decision to go ahead and do the surgery. And thankfully, I can say more than 20 years later, I continue to live a good life, a healthy life, and a cancer-free life. So I hope that my story has some value and some meaning to you. Thank you.
So I'd like to say to anyone that's going through breast cancer right now, just keep a positive mind frame. The journey to get your health back is very difficult, but you know, you have faith and you will be okay. And I feel that I'm an example of that it's very devastating when you hear for the first time you have cancer, you have breast cancer, especially for me at such a young age. It was very shocking towards me, but again, 5 years later, after chemo, my hair has grown back. It's been cut numerous times over the last few years, and just try to keep positive. And again, if anyone would like to talk, because for me it was very difficult to find someone who had the same, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, triple positive, and they were taking tamoxifen and the Nolvadex, and they got pregnant after. It was very difficult for me to find somebody like that I was able to talk to and to get advice on did they have a child after and how that was. So if there's anyone at this conference in the audience that would like to reach out to me, please feel free. And it's important to support one another as women. And unfortunately, I always say, like, it's very difficult to be diagnosed with breast cancer, but there is a large community of women and a few men that do support each other during this journey. So if you're going through this journey, good luck, and I hope one day we could all celebrate in good health together.
It can be really overwhelming. Give yourself a chance to absorb the information and do your research. Talk to others with similar experiences. Take a step back and make sure what you're being told makes sense to you. Take someone with you to your appointments to take notes for you or just as your reality check.